All right, life doesn't always go as planned. Trust me, growing up in the foster care system, bouncing between homes and being labeled unadoptable could have defined me, but I refuse to let my past write my future. So instead, I learned one of the most powerful skills, and that was resilience. So in this episode, I'm sharing my personal journey from foster care to fulfillment and breaking down the mindset shifts that helped me transform my pain into purpose. And so we're going to talk about the difference between therapy and coaching and how to recognize and rewire those negative thought patterns and why resilience isn't about avoiding struggles. It's about learning how to navigate them. And so if you've ever felt stuck in self-doubt, afraid to pivot, or held back by your past, this is the episode for you. So get ready for the real talk, the practical tools, and a reminder that your story isn't over and you have the power to rewrite it. So let's get into it. Hey, I'm Courtney Brooke, and this is Hustle for Happiness podcast. We are all on this journey to find happiness, and let's face it, it takes work. And honestly, it's not always rainbows and butterflies. This podcast is dedicated to helping you navigate life and cut through the noise. As a certified life coach, recovering perfectionist, and survivor of the foster care system, I'm all about keeping things real. With my unique outlook on life that is truly infectious, we cover everything from achieving happiness and optimal self-care to stories of those sharing their wisdom and expertise. Thank you for showing up for yourself. Now, let's get started.
Welcome, Courtney Brooke, to the Wellthy Healthy Life podcast. Thank you for joining me today.
Good morning. I'm so excited to be here. It's snowing here in Chicago, so it's kind of a fun little morning over here with the snow falling. And
yeah, I didn't realize it was snowing there today. I'm in Arkansas, and it's definitely colder today than it has been, but no snow.
a winter wonderland out there.
I do like we usually get like 1 or 2 snow days a year here, and I do really enjoy that because we don't get it very much. So it's exciting. Well, listeners, Courtney is actually a life and mindset coach. She really focuses on working with people that maybe have self-limiting beliefs, that are really kind of looking to step into their authentic selves and kind of change their lives and, live for what they are really meant to be here for. But I know a little bit about your background, Courtney, and the struggles that you face and how you've turned that into really a superpower rather than living in victim mode. But I'd like you to share that with the listeners because I think it's really powerful.
Yeah, so I'm a mindset coach. I've been doing it for about 3 years now. But to get to where I got today, I actually was a foster care kid and an orphan. And I super believe in my path in being in that situation has led me to where I am today to coach and to really allow people to believe in themselves. And, that's what I was missing as a child. I was in home to home, in and out of my mother's care, separated from my siblings, in and out of that relationship. And just imagine bouncing around your whole life. And then you finally get adopted. And that's a whole nother ball game. Trusting a family, connecting, feeling like you belonged, and really finding your happiness within these different phases. And then 18, you're on your own again. I was adopted at 9. So that is really, for those people that don't know about the foster care system or adoption, anything older than 3, you're actually deemed on your file unadoptable. They actually try to push me and my siblings through the foster care system, meaning that when you're 18, you're just done. You don't have a family, you don't have the skills. And that to me, was thinking about it now, 3 years old is young, think about a baby, and to just have that label on you till you were 9. And when my mom adopted my 3 sisters, there was 5 of us. So 2 went to a different family. But I really believe in people like, oh my gosh, this sounds really crazy. Probably those listening in or hearing the different struggles, as someone would say, but I didn't see them as struggles. And, fast forward to today, being adopted and then working through the family, then 18, I went to college, got my degree in marketing and business. And I did marketing, and I did that for 8 years. I built practices in med spas, and I started my own business cold calling at 24 years old as soon as I graduated, and COVID came. And I was like, oh, the whole medical industry took a shift. And I was like, you know what? I want to give back more. I mean, it was actually 2020 when I got licensed and certified. And I was like, I need to make a difference and I want to help. And, I was just, people look at me and, if you met me in person or just even our phone conversation, Nicole, like it's just energy and good feelings. And I really believe in that. And so I was like, this is what I live and breathe. I'm constantly studying behaviors and trauma and anxieties and how do we get past those things? And so I got certified and here we are today. Not only do I coach those men, women, 20 to 56. Those of you that don't know what a mindset coach is, it's really just about intentionality. And I specifically on the purpose and the choices we make in our belief systems with our thoughts. And so if we can get control of that, we can control a lot of the things in our lives, our reactions, and life happens, divorce, breakups, jobs, COVID, right? And so I'm a resource for life. And not only do I work with adults, but I also work with foster care kids. That's why I'm actually here in Chicago. I don't know if I told you that. But I'm here in Chicago to help with foster care kids and adoptions. And I'm on a board called One Hope United. And I help build their mental health programming. And I'm the only one on the board that's been through the system. And I used to be so embarrassed of that, like hiding my story. And I was like, you know what? That's made me who I am today. And that was one of the main reasons as to why I think they wanted me on their board is to help bring the knowledge of being in the system because none of them have. So here we are today.
Yeah. Well, I mean, gosh, I really commend you for everything you've been through. And then to look at that as not, I think a lot of people could look at that and fall easily and to some degree justifiably so, right? And kind of a victim, like, I can't believe this happened to me. I didn't get a fair shake, that sort of thing. So I really commend you for taking the other route, which I would argue is maybe sometimes the harder one, right? To say, okay, yes, this was the hand of cards I was dealt, but I get to make of it what I will. Do you think, and because you work with a lot of people in this space, that there's certain traits people have that allow them to realize hey, I can either live in victimhood or I can take some accountability for my life and move forward differently? Are there, what separates the person that can do that versus the person that seems to struggle with being able to do that?
I think each person varies. It could be environmental. It could be who they what they're doing in their daily setups. They could have everything set up, but what are you doing daily? What are you eating? Are you working through things? I don't think there's just one thing, but when you said that, there actually is. And I think it's the mindset. You said it's hard what you went through, but it's hard to be a victim and say, poor me. Or it's hard to just keep moving forward and know that you are okay. It's hard to keep moving forward. And so, yeah, Christmas is the hardest time for me. My sister's birthday's at Christmas and I don't talk to her. I haven't seen her since I was 18. That's hard, but it's also hard feeling sorry for yourself and knowing, I'm going to sit in this and justify why I can feel this way. Or, I can make my future better. I can change myself. That happened in the past, but I know I can turn out okay. And I think it's really the mindset of, what do you want your hard to be?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that you say that. What do you want your hard to be? Because I saw something and you've probably seen it too. And I don't know where it came from, but it was it listed a whole bunch of things. And it was marriage is hard, divorce is hard, choose your hard.
Yeah.
Not saying that one is right or wrong, right? But and then it was being sick, eating healthy is hard, being sick is hard, choose your heart. And it, to your point, it really, when you think about it, a lot of it does come to just how are we perceiving things? How are we reacting to them and deciding that we're going to choose differently? Because everybody has a story and a past.
Yeah.
Myself, I've been in therapy and I would always say, I've said to my therapist before, well, I know, but I don't have it as bad as, and she's like, you can't do that. You can't compare traumas because also people react to traumas differently. So what I might consider really bad, you might not, and vice versa. Right. And so, but she's like, don't diminish what you've been through because somebody else might've been through something worse. That doesn't mean it doesn't impact you. you, right?
Yeah, and I think that that's a great point. It's like that this or that society is, oh, well, it's either I do this or that, but we can have like my trauma was bad and so is yours,
Yeah.
And there's this beautiful book that Oprah Winfrey worked with a psychiatrist or psychologist with Dr. Perry. And the name of the book is called What Happened to You? And that really takes out the assumption of like a simple thing or not a simple thing, but a common thing is divorce right now.
Mhm.
Divorce was especially during COVID. And that's when you ask the question, what happened to you? It takes out the assumption that, oh, we had the same experience.
Mhm.
Oh, I went through a divorce. So we must have we had the same thing. But when you ask what happened to you is, well, what happened to me during childhood was this. My older sister took a different route. She repeated the same things as my birth mom, 5 children. I have now nieces and nephews in foster care. She lost custody of her kids. So for me, when I look at my past and look at my sisters, it's like, I think that a lot of who I am today also is from the choices I make. Right. And believing that my choices are okay. And I'm totally in control of my future, regardless. I don't want to be living with the story of, oh, I'm a foster care kid, so I guess I can act this way. Don't get me wrong. I've been through therapy. I work on myself daily. I read. I'm my own muse, but I also don't believe in justifying that just because I'm a foster care kid, I can live by that alibi that it's okay to do less or set lower goals for myself, right? It might take me a little bit longer, right? It might take a little more time or things come up where I get frustrated or, the anger might come out, but I am human, right? And so, yeah, I think if we take the trauma out of it, we're all humans just really just trying to figure it out. And I think that if you want to stay in the situation you currently are in, you'll stay and you'll find that answer. Mine wasn't that. Mine was, I wanted more for myself and I know I'm capable and believing that.
Do you think that, and you bring up your sister and she took a different path, were both of you with the same adoptive mother? Because I know you said some of y'all are separated.
Okay, so my sister, yes, we were raised by the same adoptive mom. My sister was 11 years old at the time. So she already had that bond, but she also is a totally different person. She's quiet. She's not as energetic as me. I took on the role growing up as the protector. Like I always stood up for her. And the year that I went to college, little did I know was the last year that I'd see her. She went back to my birth mom when I left. And, that year was the year I was like, you know what? I can't keep living for her. I can't keep protecting her. I need to live my life. And one of the hardest decisions, it's tough,
I can only imagine. I don't have siblings, but I have 3 children.
Yeah.
And I just look at them and 2 of them are older. Like one of them's 20 and one of them is 17. And then I have a younger one, a 10-year-old still. But I look at them and they're not the same. Like they came from they did come from the same 2 parents. Not that that matters. But I look at them and I'm like, how I already see differences in like resiliency or discipline or motivation or willing to take accountability or not. And so as a mom, I'm always trying to figure out, I had some pretty significant things happen in my life when I was younger. And I, like yourself, have been like, okay, like, how can I move forward from this?
Yeah.
But it's not as easy for everyone. Like I look at your sister, maybe it's because there was an age difference. Whatever you were perceiving in your environment was different. There could be genetic differences. I mean, you just really don't know. But I do look at that. And I think the number one thing I want my children to be able to have is resiliency. And I don't know how you teach that, like I don't, other than like, hey, you went through this really tough time and you made it out. So now you have that to reflect on, right? Like, you do come out on the other side. But I do think that's easier for some people than others for whatever reason,
And I think it's just, again, the mindset, right? It's nothing is permanent. I know I'll get through this. Now, when you talk about, different times, yeah, maybe when I have a kid, a different thing comes up for me. I don't think things just ever leave you. I'm constantly working on my past. I mean, you said you had a past as well. And it's like different experience and memories and life events might bring it up again, and you might have to rework a different side of it. And, when that happens for me, it's usually, again, I said around the holidays, I'm at a different phase, but it brings it a wave up again. And I think anyone going through something about their past or that they can't just get rid of it. Don't think of it as getting rid of it, but just working with yourself. We can't erase our memories. We can't erase the things that have happened to us. And so I'm really big on making peace with our past. Make that energy we carry around fighting it. And I wish it would just go away, or I wish it didn't happen. That's not going to happen. So how can we learn to accept it? That's who I am, but that's
Yeah.
not who I need to live by, right? So my sister making that choice to leave, I also made the choice to take a chance on myself. Right. And that's when I got my degree. That was also the last time I'd see her again. But, we're all on this journey. She's on her own journey too. And I love her. And I'm never going to say I'm not going to not talk to her or see her again. But that's my story, right? That's my life. And I'm figuring it out. And maybe one day I will have the courage to talk to her or find her. I'm not there yet with it. And I'm not going to beat myself up about it either.
Yeah. No, I think you bring up a few things that are really important. One is that, healing never really stops, right? Like, to your point, you can go to therapy, you can do a lot of work, but something else can happen and it can be triggering. I think it does become easier to recognize that, right? Like, oh, I see how I'm responding right now. I know that I'm being triggered by this and trying to understand that. But that takes a lot of practice to start even recognizing those things. And then, like you said, just being okay with constantly doing the work. Sometimes phases of your life might require more work than others, depending on what's going on. But knowing that it's not just like, oh, okay, as soon as I go to enough therapy or I do enough journaling or I meditate enough, then I won't ever think about this again. That's just, unfortunately, that is not how it works.
No, and it's
But,
it's almost like it's not a destination. Like, I mean, I still have, like, it's sitting right here. I have my file from CPS, and I haven't opened it, and it's been on my desk for 8 months. So if you don't know what CPS, when you get into the system, they write a file. I hope there's a baby picture in here because I don't know what it looked like as a baby, but I don't have the courage yet to open this. But I have it out as, like, one day, right? But again, I'm not rushing. I think we try to figure ourselves out and solve and rush and then get to a destination. Healing is just make it your own pace. It's a marathon. And I really it might take the 1,000th therapy session to finally get through something, but maybe it's that 1,000th time, right? And so my thing is in how I work with myself is just to be patient and kind. You know, I didn't exactly choose what happened to me, but I get to choose how I react to what happens to me or happened to me.
yes, yes. And I think going back to your sister, and that's just an example, right?
Yeah.
I can think about that for my kids too, or your friend or your spouse or whoever, right? That at the end of the day, the person has to be willing to do the work themselves, and you can try to do the work for them. You can be supportive, you can give resources and all those things, but you can't do the work for someone else. And that's really hard to swallow sometimes, if it's somebody that you really love, right? But I definitely have witnessed that myself as well. Like, some people that your sister might be ready one day, right? And she's maybe not there today, or you might be ready, whatever, or fill in the blank. But at the end of the day, I think if you spend all your mental energy worrying about somebody else who isn't ready, you're doing yourself a disservice too. So it's okay to say, I have to let this person figure it out. Clearly I can't do this forever for them. They have to want it bad enough. And I think that's important for people to hear too, because I think there's a lot of people that put a lot of energy into trying to solve something for someone else to their own demise to some degree. And at some point you have to hit the wall and realize, like, they got to want it more than I want it for them. So
Yeah, we often, if you think about those listening in, think about a time where you tried to prevent a friend from dating someone or drinking that next drink or, not booking the flight. You're the one that's getting exhausted. I mean, if you think about it, in any of these instances, or your kid from not getting hurt, it's like we're exhausting ourselves from trying to save them. And all the other person is doing is going to keep doing what they want to do. Right. And so when we fight that, I feel like we're the only ones seeing the pain. We're the only ones taking the agony. Right. And so I just look at it as like, I'm the only one exhausting myself from trying to prevent someone from doing something. And you talked about it earlier about, how do I build resilience with my kids? And it's like life does that. Life will do that. Don't try to get in the way. I mean, think about how many experiences that your parents weren't even a part of, or someone like your sister life creates the resilience. And so when we embrace the life of life, which is not necessarily the good or the bad, and if we don't label it, that's where resilience comes in. And that's what makes us stronger. Wayne Dyer actually talks about it in one of his books or in one of his speeches. And he was adopted too. And he goes, I had to go through what I went through as an orphan because here I am talking about it. If I didn't go through what I went through, I wouldn't be here. And so that's how, I totally resonate with him saying that because, without our experiences, we aren't who we are today. And when I look at that file sitting on my desk, I'm like, I already know the end of the story. So there's nothing to be afraid of, right?
Right.
I already know that I'm okay, right?
Yes.
So that's really cool. I thought that was a really cool piece that Wayne talked about. Our resilience is our story.
Yeah, I agree. And you're so correct on like life does that for you. And as a mom or a sister or whatever, you want to sometimes protect people. But if you live long enough, you're going to have ups and downs. You're going to have highs and lows. I mean, honestly, like if you don't have the lows, you can't appreciate the highs to some degree. So, I totally agree.
Before we dive back in today's discussion, I want to take a moment to share something special with you, HFH fam. Have you ever felt like there's more to life, but you're not quite sure how to unlock it? That's where life coaching comes in. It's not just about solving our problems, it's about uncovering your true potential and living your best life. Imagine waking up each morning excited about the day ahead, feeling confident in your abilities, and ready to tackle any challenge that comes your way. That's the power of a healthy mindset. And the only difference between you and that reality is taking the first step. And that's why I am so excited to offer you a complimentary coaching session. It's a chance for us to connect, explore, and uncover the limitless possibilities that await you. Whether you're looking to overcome obstacles, find clarity in your goals, or simply cultivate more joy and fulfillment in your life. And I'm here to support you every step of the way. So, if you're ready to experience the transformation in that what life coaching can bring, simply head down to the show notes and click the link where you'll find instructions on how to claim your coaching session. Now, let's get back to our episode.
So, I'd like to dive into a little bit about like what your work looks like as far as, when people are coming to you, what are some common themes and what are some of the tools? I realize everyone's different, but like what are some things that you help them with?
I think the main thing, if I could put my 20-year-olds to my 56-year-olds and CEOs to empty nesters to my college clients trying to get into the school and believe in themselves, right? And I think that's the main thing is, believing beyond what we think we know. And what do I mean by that is, for instance, I had a client say, I didn't sleep, so I'm going to have a bad day today. And I go, how is that thought of having a bad day now going to change the trajectory of your whole day, right? What makes you think you're going to have a bad day, right? Oh, because I didn't get sleep. Oh, so when you don't have sleep, you're going to have a bad day and see how cyclical that is. And so it's just these thoughts feed each other and they feed each other. And so I think really breaking down our thought processes, where did you learn that from? I have another client that totally doesn't know how to talk with men. And she realized that all the men in her family, she doesn't have a close relationship with. And so we really break down the roots. And some people are like, what's the difference between therapist and life coach? So therapists really go back into your childhood. They really break that apart. They really allow you to see where you came from. I done therapy. I was forced in therapy. I really went the coaching route. I'm still going to go back and get like my doctorate because I totally believe in both.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, therapists are really past driven, I would say, at least the ones I've worked with. And so when I go and bring my coaching, I'm actually bringing you forward. Let's guide you forward. We talk about your past, but really in my work specifically, in my theories and like my practice specifically, I'm all about, let's talk about how you feel right now. Like maybe you're triggered, but I'm sitting in that right seat. So imagine us driving in the car and you stop at that stop sign. I'm not going to say anything, but you're going to go left, straight, or right, or you might just stay there or turn around. Whatever you do, I'm going to say, well, what made you go right? Oh, because I was afraid to go left, or because it was foggy above and I couldn't see straight ahead. So I went right. Well, what were your fears around going forward? Oh, I didn't know what was this. And so we really I sit there in that driver's seat, help guiding you to drive, but I'm not necessarily telling you where to go or why you can't or, what's wrong. But we're going to go through life. And so some people come to me for divorce. I had specific people that come to me just to do one thing, and that was to quit their job, but then we realized that it wasn't about quitting their job. And it was about the relationships they were building or how they were passive aggressive in the work environment. And so then our patterns might follow us. So we start to really study our patterns. And so for me, I don't know if I answered your question, but I think if there is a commonality of the work I do is really just breaking down our belief systems and creating an awareness that we never knew we had. Like when you said about me understanding my resilience, I that has taken a lot of time.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had people work on some of the same things for 3+ years. But again, it's this journey, and it's so beautiful because I wake up to some text or post sessions. And that's what really makes me happy is seeing the people say, I really feel good today, or that session is exactly what I needed. That's my happy piece.
Yeah, no, that does make a lot of sense. And I do kind of like the whole, like you said, therapy a lot of times is bringing up the past. And I don't think therapy is for everyone. I mean, I know people that have great experiences with it. And then some people, especially if you're forced into it, that it, can be hard to engage. So, and I think also like anything in life, finding someone that works well with you, right? But I also think at some point you're like, I know about the past. I lived the past, so I don't have to keep
Yeah.
thinking about the past, but I'm trying to figure out how to take where I'm at now and move forward. And I
Right.
definitely like resonate with just like, I think these thoughts are repetitive and we don't always realize it.
Yeah.
Right. Like your client saying, well, I'm going to have a bad day because I didn't get sleep. I mean, heck, I feel like that sometimes. I'm like, oh gosh, I woke up at 5:30 this morning and, could have slept an hour longer. I hope I'm not tired all day. But then you're kind of telling yourself that you're going to be tired all day.
Yeah.
That's now your expectation.
Yeah.
So what are some of the things you do or that you have clients do to start becoming aware of some of those thoughts? Like, is it just in your sessions, they kind of go over stuff and then you're like pointing it out so that then they start remembering, or are they journaling, or what does that look like?
I mean, everyone is different, right? Not everyone wears the same shoes to work out in, so to speak. So really understanding the client and leading them, what does that look like for you? But a lot of it's a system of questions. But I mean, those listening in, not having a session, but want to bring more awareness into their life and starting today, I would highly suggest, such an easy one we all do is judge, right? We judge. We look at someone's shoes. Oh, I can't believe she's eating that. One thing you can do is anchor yourself to judging, and literally repeat it over and over in your mind, saying, I'm judging until the judgment is completely out, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're complaining. Oh, it's hot. I'm tired. We love to complain, right? Society, it's how we relate. Oh my gosh, I'm tired too. And then we come together, but it's, I'm complaining, and anchoring a word to what you're doing, the action you're doing. So judging, complaining, I'm worrying. We love worrying is another one we all do. Worrying again. So that's anchoring yourself to what you're doing and literally saying it. If you have to say it out loud at first, I mean, it's going to be weird at first, but then you start to catch yourself. And that's the magic. You catch yourself in the pattern.
Yes.
How is this serving me right now? Judging, complaining, or worrying? 99% of the time doesn't, right?
Mm-hmm.
So another tool would be to be present, become present back in the moment. When you're worrying, you're living in the future. Everyone says, I have anxiety. We're living in the future. Come back to the present moment. When we're worrying, we're thinking about whatever's in front of us. But coming back to that present moment of what am I doing right now? Are my feet on the ground? Put your hand over your stomach. Everyone just sitting in your chair listening to this podcast right now, put your hand over your stomach. Am I deep belly breathing? Like, come back to your senses and really get to know your body. Oftentimes when we are judging or worrying, our breath is shortened. We're
Mm-hmm.
reducing oxygen. We're creating stress and increasing our cortisol. So everything is so connected. So anchoring yourself, checking your surroundings. Are my feet on the ground? Am I breathing? How's my heart rate? Am I salivating? Is my mouth dry? I might need some water. And then a third one, I love to go for a walk. Walking is just something so good to create an awareness of, maybe you're a snacker at 12. You love that afternoon snack. I replace it with a walk and I set a timer for 20 minutes. And often the times it's the stress or the awareness piece of, oh my gosh, I was just doing that out of habit, right? So a walk can do so much for us, especially if you can be barefoot on the grass or if you're by the beach. Grounding yourself in your environment. I think when we're often not aware of our thoughts and living in different parts of our heads, we're not in tune with ourselves. And so just a quick frame change, getting
Mhm.
outside, getting out of the office, or, maybe the kids are screaming. Everyone, we're going for a walk, right? Let's reset together, right? So that reset is a good trigger for the brain to say, let's reset, let's get out of the environment. So I think I answered your question, but there's
Yeah.
so many tools, but those are the three that hands down will work. I use them too.
No, I love that, and I think it's funny you bring up taking a walk. My oldest daughter is in art school in college, and, she said the other day they got into class and, like, everybody was just kinda, like, not feeling it, you know? It was, like, one of those days, and the art teacher was like, or I don't know exactly what class it was, but the teacher was like, "You know what, guys? We're gonna go outside and go for a walk." And so they, like, went outside and it was, like, a beautiful day, and they did, like, a lap around the building or whatever, and then they went back in, and everyone was, like, way more positive and happy to be there, you
Yeah.
know? And so little things like that really do change.
Yeah.
And then I also really like the idea of saying, I'm worrying, or judging or complaining, because I think we all do a lot of those things without even realizing it. But if you can kind of start becoming aware, I'm definitely a worrier. And so that's definitely something have been working on for a long time. But I read something recently and it was like, most of the things that you worry about never happen. And if they do, they're not as bad as they are in your head, right? Like how you're making it seem. So
Yeah.
I think, but you're right. The first step is really just to start becoming aware that how often am I doing this? And
Yeah.
once your brain starts realizing, okay, I'm doing this, then it's easier to kind of rewire and move forward into a different way of thinking, I believe. So,
Yeah, and worrying is if you my I have a mentor, she's 80. She was actually my life coach and she still is. And she said reality is a lot kinder than our thoughts. And so when you get to the worrying and you think about all the things you're worrying and maybe you're worrying about something right now as you listen to this podcast or how it's going to work out, is it always does work out, but think about reality is a lot kinder than our thoughts. And our thoughts are literally the stem of everything, how we react, how we live, what we do, and honestly, what we don't do. Someone posted actually a quote this morning saying, worrying is like a rocking chair. You don't go anywhere but back and forth. And I thought that was really, really good. Because I mean, visually think about it. We aren't going anywhere with that thought of worrying, right?
yeah, no, I totally agree. Okay. So if somebody's working with you, is that like, do you do one-on-one coaching? Is it group coaching? Would you, if somebody's listening and they're like, I might be interested in this, can you give them a little bit of idea of like, what does that look like? Is it weekly calls, monthly calls, or maybe there's more than one?
Yeah, so I specifically do one-on-one coaching, Zoom, phone call. You pick. I want my client to be comfortable. It's their session. They dictate. I have some people that do 45 minutes. I have some people that do hours and then emergency sessions, but I don't change like my pricing or any of that. But for those that are like, well, how do I even approach something like this? You literally, you dictate your calls. I'm always on my phone, not on my phone, but available for a text. Hey, can you talk? I can't meet today. I don't believe in a cancellation policy. I think that life happens. And when we create stress around life happening, it creates more of animosity. And two, the cadence of the calls are really either once every week or once every other week. I believe that when you go more than 3 weeks, we're playing too much catch up and you're literally just paying me to listen to you. And there's not a lot of headway. And I don't believe in that. I don't want my client to feel like 90% of the call is me listening. I would say actually 74. I think that's my number is that because when I record, I check my listening time. I'm like, when you listen, like it does help people. But I think when you get past that 3 week, that 4 week mark, a lot happens, a lot changes. And I also have some clients that take breaks. Hey, Courtney, I need a break for 3 months. Or, if money's a thing, you're like, oh, I wonder how much this costs. This is my business. I can dictate. I say, pay what's fair to you. What can you afford? Because if me helping one person is in between money, I don't want to let money get in between me and the client of helping them. Right. And so for me, I love that this is my business. I can say, hey, let me work with you. Or, hey, Courtney, I need a break. And that's the hardest part is people talking about money or taking that break. It gets in between. I try to create the environment of, hey, this is your session. I'm here for your life. I'm not a short-term thing. I have my college students that message me after college and say, hey, I'm going through a lot, right? And so the relationship continues with whatever someone is going through. But I have I have like a solid few that have been with me for the 4 years. I have an intermittent group, and then I have people that just do one-offs. I'm going through a really extreme thing right now. Can you talk right now? And then they'll intermittently call me, and it'll be a longer session because the catch up, but then working them through whatever they're going through. But it's almost like they need that session just to reset, right? So there's different types of sessions. They're not differently charged, but how I do it is, how can I be here for you?
Yeah.
That's literally what I do.
That makes sense. Because, I mean, to your point, some people are comfortable with, everyone's comfort level is different. And it sounds like you take a really kind of tailored approach to the individual and what works best for them, which I think a lot of people would appreciate.
Yeah.
Would you mind sharing a little bit about you transitioning kind of? So when you were in marketing and stuff, I'm assuming it was more like corporate America.
No, actually, I mean, yes and no. So,
Okay.
do you want me to share my transition?
Well, I just think like also we're kind of in a time where there's a lot of people that are looking to pivot from a job. Maybe they're in corporate America or I would say, a job that like they don't get to make the decisions and they want to start something like life coaching, health coaching, whatever, any kind of side hustle that they would love to turn it into something. So if you have any kind of like thoughts around you taking that leap and just going for it, and it can be the good, bad, and the ugly of what that looks like for you, and any regrets or you like, I'm so glad I did this.
I mean, yeah, and starting any business is hard. Even starting our podcast is a whole beast, right? You've learned that. And it takes a lot of courage. I think that there is no right or wrong way. Some people go all in and stop their job and do it. Some people, I don't have enough courage, so I'll do a side hustle. I don't think that you should stop your daydream though, meaning like, don't let, like, it does take courage, but if you're not the person that needs to quit your whole job altogether to start that side hustle, then find a way to make it happen. For me specifically, I was fortunate enough that my husband said, start something new. We were at the time, I was doing branding and marketing and strategic content for plastic surgeons in San Diego. That was a time when med spas, lawyers, attorneys, accountants, a male dominant market actually was coming online. And so I was coaching them and bringing them online through social media and teaching them to be dimensional doctors versus just, I'm a plastic surgeon, this is all I do. So I did that for 6+ years. And I absolutely loved it. And then our relationship and our marriage specifically allowed me to pull back because we needed me to do more of our life admin and more of our stuff. I mean, we were traveling around so much with my husband's career that I wouldn't see him. So for me to be in office, filming these doctors, working with them, I couldn't do both. And so I love my job. It has helped me with my businesses today. I still do work with aesthetics. I still love it. That's still one of my passions. But I'm more on the backside of, working with laser companies. I'm a big advocate for acne. So I still bring my passions into, I'm not just a life coach. I love my foster care. I do work with aesthetics and I work with travel companies. But for me specifically, I was blessed and very grateful that my husband's like, hey, let's pull back. But I didn't go straight into coaching though. I actually had a year gap where I was just like, you know what? I don't know what I want to do. But then it's so funny. It's so crucial who we hang out with and who we partner up with. I never really talked about being adopted until actually my husband. I never told guys I would date would usually throw my story back in my face. Like, oh, no wonder you don't want to be with me. You're adopted. So you should probably go be alone again. So I just learned to not share. And it's amazing what a partner can do because it's now what I do now. He embraced my story. And so I was working with my life coach. She changed my life through breakups, relationships, really helped me actually with the beginning stages of my husband. And I was like, if she can do that, I can do that. And so I worked with her. I've been working with her for the last 8 years on mentoring me and still working with her as a coach. And I got to transition. And so then during COVID, I was like, I don't need to do medical still. And I went all in on life coaching and fulfillment pieces, volunteering, giving back, and then building my business. And then actually a year ago, I started the podcast. So I just added another thing in. So that to me was my personal story. But I always had an underlying hum in the back of my head of what can you do to serve? What can you do to help? And so during COVID, I was just like, I totally turned around and listened like to that voice. And I was like, let's do it. And so I really just, if you have that humming in the back of your head, that noise, don't ignore it. If there's something like, I really wish I could get into that. Again, it's a belief system. What makes you think you can't get into it? Whether it's following a bunch of Instagram accounts that start the passion, or connecting with meetup groups, or, reaching out to people with the same story or the same interest. I listen to that hum, because I'm so fulfilled right now. And it's such a passion of mine, not only the coaching, but working with these kids and building the programming. I'm healing myself through it. And so, yeah, that's been my transition story.
Yeah, I love that. And I agree. I think like if there's something that you've always wanted to try or do and you are just letting fear hold you back, like
Yeah.
go for it. I mean, even like to your point, the podcast or whatever, coaching, any of those things, people don't care about you as much as you think they do. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean that in a like, we're always so worried about what other people are going to think.
Totally.
And as you get older, I think I mean, you have realized it really young, which I think is fantastic. But as I've gotten older, I'm like, one, who cares what people think? The people that love you are going to love you no matter what. And two, so go for it. And if it doesn't work out, pivot to something else. I'd much rather that than one day wake up and wish I had tried something and not known what it could have been. Right. So I think, and we're living in a time where it's so much easier to try things like that because there are so many ways to get around having to, you can coach people and they don't have to come see you in an office. You can do it over Zoom. You can do it over the phone. Right. So I love
And
that
I think
too.
it's so special because it's like people think, oh, I have to be good at it in order to really pursue it. And treat it like this is a social experiment to grow yourself, whether it's a 3-month experiment or 7 years of working and taking that leap. But don't look at it as, again, a destination, but how am I living my life really fulfilling right now? Right? What
Mhm.
does that look like right now? And for me, it was, I'm going to go into coaching. I don't know what that looks like, but we don't need to know. Our brains like to know and make sense. So if you know that about yourself, like, my brain's trying to make sense of this, which is keeping me from not doing it. I need to do it because I don't need to make sense. We don't need to make sense of everything. But I think the beautiful part is just watching it, just seeing it where it goes. Like, I took watercolor class. That takes courage. Where it's like, why am I letting what the painting's going to look like stop me from just painting? And that's the thing, is just paint. Just start. Just listen to that hum, because you can then, for me at least, you develop, okay, if it doesn't work out, you're like, I tried it and I actually didn't like it. Or are you going to be 90 say, I've always still wanted to do that?
Right.
You can change your mind about it.
Exactly. I think too, people don't realize that a lot of successful entrepreneurs or people that we know or look up to or see on social media tried a whole bunch of different stuff before the thing that we know them for stuck,
Yeah.
and that's what they're doing. Or they might be successful in something and then still go try something different. Like, it's okay to be interested in more than one thing. It's okay to fail 3 times before you are successful in something. Like, most successful people have. The difference is they're not scared to move forward anyway. So, well, I have loved this conversation. You really are such an inspiration. I think people, and you said this earlier, like, you guys need to go follow her on Instagram. I'll let you tell everyone where they can find you here in a second. I've been following you. Like, I can just feel the energy literally just following you, which is kind of weird to say, but like, you really are a good follow because it's inspirational, and it's not just all inspirational life stuff. It's like you're traveling and, all of that's kind of fun to watch too. So share with everyone if they're interested in learning more about you, learning more about your coaching program, where should they go? And of course, I'll make sure it's all in the show notes as well.
Yeah. I mean, thank you so much for those kind words. It's taken a lot. Again, it's been a journey to feel this way, but I want to feel this way. And so I appreciate you saying that, because social media, like, you wonder what people view you as, and so I'm glad my energy comes through, because that is one thing I want to use social media for good. Like, when you leave my page, you whatever, you're laughing at me, or there's a gem or a mindset hack, like, that's like, I want it to just be that. So you can find me on all platforms: TikTok, LinkedIn, my website, Instagram, YouTube. Just Hey Courtney Brooke, at Hey Courtney Brooke, and then add a .com at the end if you want to go to my website.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Well, again, thank you so much, Courtney. I've really enjoyed this conversation, and I can't wait to just see what you keep doing.
Thank you so much for having me.
Resilience isn't about waiting for life to get easier. It's about deciding you're stronger than your excuses. You can sit in the same cycle of overthinking and self-doubt, or you can get up and do something about it. Your choice. So here's your challenge for the week. Do the thing you've been avoiding. Stop overanalyzing. Stop waiting for the perfect time and just take action. One step at a time, one decision at a time. So prove to yourself that you're not stuck. You're just hesitating, and hesitation doesn't build the life you want. So no more waiting, no more excuses. Go make it happen. Love you, fam. Till next time. I hope today's episode left you better than when I found you. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and tune in every Monday to kickstart your week and set your weekly intentions with me. You can find me and HFH on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok, or online at heycourtneybrooke.com. I firmly believe in the power of sharing. If you know someone else who would benefit from this podcast, please share it with them. And remember, when you work on you, I get to be there.